happening and you're trying to get to work, please send us a message on WhatsApp if you can through the course of the show, right? Send us your views and opinions and comments on the stories on 0809 for messages. And on Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Use that hashtag Business Express 981, pardon me.
All right.
On YouTube, we're live on Smooth 981 FM. You can leave a comment in the live chat option or section, brother.
All right, thank you, Valentine. So yesterday, the markets, they halted their 5-day slide. Market was up by 0.15%, marginal, 31,360 points is where we closed. I understand that most of this interest was driven by Nestle. Nestle dropped to like, what, 1,400 or so. So I guess some folks went bargain hunting. So far this month, the market is down by 1.1%. Excuse me. Yeah, so far this month of March, 1.1%. But so far for the year, down by 0.22%. Just 13 gainers, 18 losers on the exchange. And that's it for the market. Valentine, we're talking about infrastructure dilapidation, I guess. Yeah, we're talking about maintenance, and sadly we had this building collapse in Itafaji.
Rotus.
Pretty sad stuff.
Very
and
sad.
Just
yesterday morning we were talking about how infrastructures are hardly maintained,
and another building collapse. And you want to extend this conversation to the real estate market. Now I know real estate, you're talking about land, and you're talking about buying land, investing in it, allowing it to appreciate. But at some point, when these tragedies continue to happen, you have to now wonder how this filters into building buildings on top of this very land and how it's going to affect the market. They may not be, I mean, I'm just speculating here, it may not be the kind of effect that I'm thinking about, but when you talk about whether or not these buildings are properly inspected. I understand that you have a freshly pressed story where Ambode is blaming the landlord. I think I saw that in this day. I don't know if you can, I guess you guys talk about it on freshly pressed, but I don't know if you can extend this blame to just the landlord. It's more than that. I
really do not think it should rest on the landlord.
Yeah,
we'll go through the story.
Yeah, you go
But we know there are regulations. We know, I mean, building specifications. The things that the measurements they take, approvals that go with them.
Right, the foundations of
exactly.
Because a lot of these things, they're always assessments. They're building more stories than they're supposed to, extending this and that. I don't know. Anyway, may their souls rest in peace. I understand children were part of it as well. Really tragic stuff. So still, the infrastructure quality discussion continues. Moving on to the budget, the Senate, I understand they resumed yesterday, and they were discussing the 2019 budget. This, I have to say, was one of the most honest discussions, I guess maybe because it happened after the elections, but one of the most honest discussions about the 2019 budget and our levels of debt that I've ever seen. Maybe I'm missing it some other times in the past, but the headline from Business Day is 2019 budget assumptions are unrealistic, says senators. Can you imagine? So senators got together and they were saying that, listen, some of the particular assumptions that you have here, for example, $60 per barrel oil and also 2.3 million barrels daily oil production are not realistic. So they were saying that, listen, the oil market has been volatile, going up and down. Are you sure that $60 per barrel is the actual benchmark that we should be using? Also, our production, we know production has continuously been hampered in Nigeria. They are putting an estimate of 2.3 million barrels per day production. You barely did 1.8, 1.9 in this past year. I mean, I think there was a period where they got close to 2 million barrels per day, but
what's the capacity to produce more?
Yeah, to produce more. Also, there's the issue of the Trans-Forcados pipeline being shut down for maintenance. There have been the issues of pipeline vandalism. So, can you realistically come out in a budget and say that we're going to estimate that we'll be doing 2.3 million when realistically you've seen that you've underperformed that in the past? So in particular, I think it was Deputy Senate President Mr. Ike Ekweremadu who also mentioned the fact that he was worried about our debt, but then he now mentioned the debt to GDP. He was like, it's a little worrisome. Dear Mr. Senator Ekweremadu, it's not debt to GDP, because in fact somebody else from the there was a reply also in the Senate. I believe it was Deputy Senate Leader Bala Naala. He said, "Oh, don't worry about it. That debt to GDP ratio is low, and you shouldn't worry." That's not the main worry. The main worry is debt service, our debt service to revenue ratio, right? That's what folks should be worried about, because that's about what 60. I think it's about 60%. So still, I thought it was a very honest conversation that they had in the Senate. They didn't mention the exchange rate though. They didn't mention the fact that the budget estimates is using 305 naira to the dollar. That one too is not realistic, because we've been using 360 so far on the parallel market at NAFEX. Want to welcome Ugodre. Ugodre, thank you for coming in.
We know.
Yeah, okay. We're just talking about this story here. The Senate was talking about the unrealistic assumptions in the 2019 budget. I wanted to get your thoughts. Mr. Korimado was talking about the fact that, $60 per barrel, 2.3 million barrels per day production. Also, he was talking about he was worried about the debt. And then another thing, he also said that they need to return to the January to December budget cycle in line with Section 318 of the 1999 Constitution. Okay, so he said that, look, the president's presenting the budget in December, it not being passed until May. He also added the fact that we've had elections. When is the budget going to be passed? When is it going to be implemented? Ugodre, what are your thoughts on our budget?
As far as I'm concerned, this is a lame duck.
Senate, yeah? Because they're all going to be cleared out.
So you know what? Just go. I mean, you're on your way out already. So, and we've always known that budget projections, most times the assumptions have probably been off. I mean, I think since like maybe 2006 or so, we've always had 2.2 million barrels per day or 2.3 million barrels per day in production. But we hardly, excuse me, I think we average about 1.8 or 1.9
exactly,
or so. So we never hit that milestone. And then in terms of the price, crude oil price as well, it's neither here nor there, because you're not really sure. So you can see $60, you can see $55, you can see, but by and large, we've actually been, averagely lower than the actual average price. So it's difficult to predict these things. So yes, there are a lot of unrealistic figures here, but as far as we're concerned, this is a lame duck.
Is that why they're being so honest?
We should not just waste our time. And in terms of the budget cycle, January to December, they have it's their fault too, because these things get submitted to them enough. Yeah. So, but then they deliberate for too long, and
they go on recess.
And they go on recess, and I mean, they've been since January. Between January and now, it's been all politics. So who are you blaming? So mine is that lame duck session. Time for you guys to just
step
past this thing.
But Nigeria has to move forward.
Yeah, let's just move forward.
All right.
Messages.
Yes, please.
Benga Kamu says it's the regulatory agencies that are at fault in matters like this. He's speaking to the issue of the building collapse yesterday. He said people had called attention to the inconsistencies in the budget's figures. I believe the budget should be scrutinized properly and reworked to suit our realities.
Right.
Benga, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Kufre says, hello, from the news yesterday, the building was marked for demolition and was to be vacated since 2018.
Okay, Kufre, we'll look that up. Thank you for that.
Yinka says, our heart goes out to the victims of the collapsed building yesterday. However, the truth be told, places like that have a strange grip on people in that vicinity. If you know those from that area, call it Saleko and all that, you will understand the kind of attachment they have for such areas. Now, look at that area and how the buildings are structured. Who gets attached to such area? But the question is, do our current understanding of the need for an affordable housing projects in new areas, does it support this? Like those expanse of lands between Lagos and Ibadan, one can't even afford a decent mortgage in this country.
Good point.
Daniel Ajanaku says, I love the comment that it's a lame duck Senate. Budget in Nigeria has never been realistic because everything is based on speculations.
All right.
Ibrahim says, like play, I've gotten away with above $60 mark for a whole quarter. Not sure how long this will last though. We also have OPEC production limit to worry about, as well as demand for our oil. Thank you, Ibrahim. Emma from Akoka says, wet morning, but we saved for the rainy day. Sad commentary about the building collapse. About the Senate conversion on budget, well, it's about optics. If the optics look good, but it's just smoke screen.
All right. Thank you for your messages. Okay. Ugodre, we've apparently Nigeria now has banned the 737 MAX 8 from coming into its airspace.
So what happens to the operators who've ordered or placed an order?
I know, right? That's
I want to believe that orders like this usually come with some kind of caveat that I mean, maybe you can you can cancel or things like that.
Or if you've ordered before now.
Yeah, you've always had things like that. And by the way, I think I read in the news sometime last night that United States, Trump has also, decided to ban it, like look, ground everything. So the way he talks now. So all the marks are in the air, bring it down. Once they are down, they're not going back up again. So for now,
Remember the conversation we had? Yeah, yes. I was talking about the divide between developing nations supporting it and developed nations supporting it. Well, not really a conspiracy. It was based on who was supporting it at the time. That one has gone out the window. So the UK followed up, and then Canada, and in fact Germany, South Korea, Australia, major developed nations, and then America was last in actually grounding this thing.
Do they have a vested interest in
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but it's a huge indictment on Boeing.
Right.
So I fear that this might just attract a lot of lawsuits as well, because what you're basically saying is that you see, so there's actually something wrong with these planes.
More like a class action suit.
Exactly. Yeah. So I won't be surprised if this starts to happen.
And I'm not a big fan of China, especially how their government is run. But China took leadership on this issue.
I'm a fan.
China, they were the first ones. They didn't waste time. China
there's been a lot of intel, because a few guys that I know in the industry, basically said that look, there's something wrong with the plane. And that's the fact, right? So there's this switch on that typically once it switches, you have like 10 seconds or so to take control. So sometimes you cannot take control.
If you miss that window,
and if you miss that window, it just nosedives. Yeah, and then you can't control it anymore. That's what happens. So it's real. So they've seen these things, and Boeing has tried to maybe explain it out in one way or the other. But countries have not said, you know what, dude,
we're not taking the risk.
Indonesia was Ethiopia is one too many. You know what I mean? So
but why has it taken so long for them to have a response to this?
Is it the US or
no? The Boeing itself.
Boeing responded immediately, but the thing is that they didn't want to bring down the plane because it has consequences. So they are saying that look, it's fine. If
it's automobile industry, they will recall the cars.
Exactly. There are processes to this anyway. To be fair,
and also Southwest Airlines and I think American Airlines, they have majority of these planes are part of their fleet, so their stock also dropped yesterday in addition to Boeing. So anyway, we'll see how the fallout is heavy. Ugojo, your thoughts on this next story? MTN to proceed with IPO once tax case is settled. Nairametrics was part of a media parlay where they got to interview the CEO of MTN along with their other executives there, and they said that okay, look, the IPO will move once this tax issue is put behind them.
Yeah, so this IP has been protracted for months now. It was supposed to happen this time last year. About last year,
October,
summer or something like that. But here we are, March. We're still discussing dilly-dallying, whether this should happen. In Ghana, they've already gone for it. I think they did theirs early last year already. So, but you can't really blame them, right? So if they keep having all this legal, tussle over them, and it's going to be difficult to go list because this is going to have impact on the valuation of MTN shares. So, and we've told and it's kind of strange that Malami is still going on with this. They've settled the CBN months ago, and I don't know why the Attorney General is still, telling them to come and pay some taxes that, quite frankly, I really don't know where they got that figure from. And by the way, he's not the FIRS, so and that's why we want this is not a jurisdiction. So why are you slowing down? And this is really how government can just affect things, activities in the economy. And MTN listing on Nigerian Stock Exchange is a huge gain for us. And this has just been on the table just because of one man. And by the way, it's kind of strange that I think the Jumia IPO is basically a version of this one. Anyway.
Exactly. We'll, I guess, get into that one to Tech Friday tomorrow. That's another interesting story.
Nice, tomorrow's Friday.
Yes,
so the Black Spencer on YouTube said, "Is it possible to wipe out our debts?"
Ha!
Nojim Yusuf is asking, Yusuf says, what is wrong with hedging the price of crude oil to manage volatility?
Mexico did that, and they saved themselves a lot of money. It's foresight. Our government unfortunately didn't have the foresight.
Obajimi Adewale on Twitter says, it was reported yesterday that 4 US pilots complained about the plane to FAA, but chose to ignore. Boeing must be really powerful.
Tk you. I heard about that. Yes, it's a duopoly now. It's just Boeing and Airbus. So 2 people control all the aeronautics engineering. It's
and
massive.
then Yinka is reminding reminding us, still speaking about the plane issue, he said, but guys, come on, our federal government has a effrontery to ban a particular plane as if we produce kites. And then,
we're not even here.
And then says, remember, passport is now 70K. So
man, that passport thing,
it's even difficult to fly planes.
Oh gosh.
Lagos, thank you for your messages. Keep it coming here. A special thanks to Gudre for stepping in beyond, even with the rain.
Yes.
And Rotus.
Thank
Hit
you.
Rotus up, sending messages, continue the conversation on Twitter, and tweet at Rotanquotes. If you like Cedric Napoleon, Lindsay Webster, S.A. Peters, Andrew Gopuche, we have music lined up for you this morning. And then at 7:30, we'll bring you detailed analysis to the newspaper stories inside of Freshly Pressed 91.